Hello there everyone, welcome back. It is time to have ourselves in our matchup with Tau, and things are going to be different this time, I can promise you that, because you want to know why? It's because Solaire has decided to hang up his Air Caste fleet. He is going with a different type of composition altogether there, in terms of favors anyway. And I don't want to spoil it too much there just yet, because I actually had a match with Solaire before this recording, and then my PC promptly crashed on me in the first cruiser clash that we had, or the first match, and I was winning that bout too. It certainly felt like I was winning anyway. So, I know coming into this second match, this rematch as it were, what exactly is fielding. And really, I managed to have a handful of matches with Solaire over the past weekend, at least on Saturday. Unfortunately, didn't get much of matches in for the Sunday before the championship finally ends. I'm really hoping this time it actually ended, because I thought it was ending on Friday, and then I find out there was still 2 days left. So I'm almost certain maybe the championship's finally over for a change, but nonetheless, I still have several matches to show you for, at least from my experience, and most of them are going to be against Solaire, I think, because I just had a string of rematches with him, just spamming out the matches after this, one after the other. So not going to be a whole lot of variety, but I do come up against Calamar for one of those matches later. I'm just not sure if I want to showcase that match or not, because it's going to be interesting. Needless to say, because he's not going with Eldar for the match I fought him in. So, nonetheless, let's focus on the matches we have in hand. The fact that Solaire has mixed up his fleet, and I'm not entirely certain how to deal with his new fleet there. Although, I want to say it allows me to be more aggressive, I'm just not certain of it. It's going to take a little bit of practice still with the new composition, because he's going to have a little more different upgrades. He's going to have a little bit more firepower, I would imagine, so it's going to be interesting. Even though my mind layout is going to be a little bit weird, I'm kind of expecting him to go through the front, but in this case, he's decided to field 2 strongholds and a couple of Castellans, or at least a Castellan, I guess. So, this works out well for me considering, I guess, luck is on my side once again. He has no asteroid belts to charge up his beam, and I would argue the beam would not have helped him too much because his strongholds died before he even got within reach of the station that one time. So, I'm feeling pretty confident here. I just, if nothing else, probably need to take the fight to strongholds a little bit. Try and slow him down and stall him while peppering him with some macro batteries as a bonus. At least that's probably what I should be doing. Because hell, I decided to field a Widowmaker this time, interestingly enough, over the Overlord. So I don't have the Lance, the number of Lance weaponry I would like in this case. So this is probably part of my experimentation. Going with more with the Retribution and the Tyrant to hopefully allow for more of the aggressive play. Because the Overlords are a little more longer range centric. I like to feel anyway, especially since I infested upgrades. Yeah, there it is, folks. He did, in fact, field a sauce for a experimental railgun. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I'm completely wrong about this match. I thought he had 2 strongholds.
Yes, Admiral.
Because otherwise, how the hell... Oh, wait, maybe he has 2 bastions. Is that why? I'm trying to remember what the hell he has over there. Now I'm completely wrong about this match. Because I do see the fighters there that are clearly Demiurge, but he also has 2 ships on the right, so... No, he probably has 2 Sauces and then 2 strongholds, so... The jig is up, folks. There's no more surprise anymore. He's fielding Air Caste, for the most part anyway, from what I could tell. So, this is going to change the dynamic a little bit, as apparently, as you can see, he's trying to harass the strongholds outside of my ability to engage him. And thankfully, it's only 2 of them, so the repairs alone will pretty much negate... What is it? Yeah, the repairs alone will negate one of them by itself, and I'm reloading to hopefully get a faster recharge on the repairs. Not to mention, it will be useful to get faster fighters, if necessary, or bombers in this case, since I'm dealing with strongholds and not so much a custodian, so bombers could contribute quite well here. But we are trying to soften up these strongholds, trying to get a good angle on them, because now that I realize the Sauces, I'm kind of a little hesitant, especially to move the Dictator out. Actually, I should probably poke forward a little bit, maybe if I'm lucky, as I move the Widowmaker to a more ideal position to try and spot and maybe harass the strongholds on the left. At least harass maybe with the Tyrant, and at least definitely the Overlord. The Dictator probably should stay nearby to help provide support with the Seeker missiles, but nonetheless, we do have Cobras now, at least to help a little bit with that. Even though they only got 3 measly point defense, every little bit's definitely going to help. Yeah, although it's not going to help much with the experimental railguns, as it's apparently, as I come to find out the hard way, is that they do double damage to frigates there. So, the frigates' little trait to do double damage from AoE abilities also goes to the experimental railguns. So, that could be a little problematic, as we see right in fact there. He's just annihilating my Cobras, and I don't know if that second railgun shot actually hit the stronghold or not. But, hell, take a look at the work of those torpedoes, folks. Already, stronghold's at like a third of his health, and he did launch all his fighters, so I either got exceptionally lucky or the broadside is just makes him even more vulnerable to those torpedoes. I couldn't tell you which, but I'm happy with this result, as already one stronghold is already just inching so close to insubordination. Although, ideally, that's probably not the result I would like. I just want to straight up kill these things, but I'll take an insubordination for a much more easier victory. But, not going to happen here. He does get the micro-warp jump at the last possible second, but it's still crippled as hell. Once those fighters are dead, a couple of torpedoes will put it in its place. It will happily put it in its place. So now I'm moving everything over here, trying to take these Demiurge a little more seriously. Especially, do I still have fighters on Dictator? No, they got shot down because of the Stronghold's fighters. So I'm waiting for those to refresh, try and find a window to remember to refresh, which I'm doing right now, thankfully. So, Demiurge's torpedoes are going to be a little lackluster, to say the least. A little lackluster, because this Demiurge's already pretty much dead. One torpedo is all I need, and sadly, I expended all my torpedoes shooting at his wall of fighters, so I'm left to rely on lucky macro can hits and a couple of lances. And we get it. It's gone. The first Demiurge's gone. Not even close to hitting with the cutting laser. Who cares about asteroid belts? The first one didn't do anything of note. And this one is going to get rammed to death. He hasn't used a micro-warp jump yet, so I can't remember if I'm aware of this fact or not, but I'm preparing for something. I'm preparing for something because he tried a micro-warp jump. I turn my retribution around immediately, and this provides a perfect opportunity for the torpedo shot. Oh, this is going to be beautiful. It did launch bombers, so it could be lackluster. Thankfully, 4-5 managed to hit. And, thankfully, we have shield transfers. Hell, that would have took almost all of that, because you know what else is... You know what else there? All 3 of my cruisers still have the shield transfers available, so there was no way a cutting laser was getting through that. Not in the slice, and I argue again with him staying in an asteroid belt to charge unless I got distracted to lob my torpedoes at his other ships. I would think I would continue to shoot torpedoes at Demiurge and get even more damage out of him before he decide to engage. So I think that still works in my advantage there, especially when I can see him coming. Especially when I can see him coming there. If I'm open-minded about what he's fielding. At the very least, but nonetheless, he warps out the Sauces. I wasn't paying too much attention if that had navigators on him, upgraded or not, so he could suffer a loss in warp effect still there. Now we just gotta clean up the Castellan, which he's promptly ramming into a structure right now, trying to kill it. So in the next few minutes that'll be over. So he's already conceded, so let's move on over to the next match, shall we? Alright, first match was simple enough for me there. Second one, though, he's going to do something a little bit different. In that I'm going to be fighting a Planetary Assault, and I have little idea how I should play this out, especially since I'm not sure how to deal with the Air Caste Custodian just yet. Because he has straight up more firepower, so I'm wondering if I played a longer game or not. Or if I should just get even more aggressive because he can't run away as effectively. It's hard to really say, because I am thrown for a loop a little bit. I'm just prepared. I know the changes he made to his fleet at least. I just don't know how to adjust and make the proper decisions there just yet. So, we're going to go with the Overlord, the Dictator, the Tyrant, and a Dauntless with no Widowmaker. and the idea is here is I'm going to try, if possible, to play the objective. Because I don't know... Well, I don't have the Widowmaker, so I'm not able to actually spot his ships in harass or at range. But I do have the Dictator's Beacon, so the thought process there a little bit. If the Dauntless does not detect his ships, then at least the Beacon should be able to allow me to engage. But I think my main issue I'm going to have with this match is I'm probably going to try and play the objective too much rather than try and fight him straight up. Because ultimately, I think with Planetary Assault, unless you're really lucky and already in a decent position for the first target objective, you probably want to fight in the middle, contest, or what is it? Yeah, just size up your opponent in the middle of the map, and if he decides to fight you, then you basically could potentially just win that battle, especially for me anyway. It remains to be seen if I have the firepower though, but I think my main strategy is to fight him in the middle, try and bully him out, and then have map controls of results for all the objectives, because again, I have this Dauntless with the speed increase, so it could single-handedly grab all the objectives for me if I'm in the middle of the map, but I think I played this a little too cautiously, a little too safe. Hard to really say in retrospect what my mindset was, especially since it's all mixed up and jumbled up from a bunch of other matches that I kind of already played with Solaire shortly after this. Because I had like a streak of maybe 3-4 matches at the very least, plus 1-2 more I think I had of Solaire and some other players at least. So it's all mixed up, so it's hard to really say what my thought process is. But nonetheless, I'm going to try and chip down some of those beacons there, give me a little more freedom of movement, especially since I'm relying on my silent run so much for the Custodian. Relying on it to try and deny him the extra vision, because otherwise there's only one direction I can go if I'm going to try and dodge his secret missiles while hitting, and that's going to be falling back. Which goes to what I said there about trying to get control of the middle of the map. Nonetheless, his railguns are coming out. I'm waiting for the second and third before I start repairing. Not that it really matters all that much. And this is the big play that I can't really understand. Why exactly did I reload? Especially if I'm pushing forward, because if I stood my ground, ideally my silent run and repairs would be back up shortly before I engage him. But as it stands now, it leaves me so vulnerable for this warden that gets detected and spotted. And since I don't have the 12,000 unit range to be able to respond properly with the Dictator, I'm not going to be able to kill it before it spots me, even with the 5,000 unit range there of the warden. So I feel like this may be a huge mistake for me there. I can't for the life of me remember what the idea was, except for speeding up my repairs, because I wasn't expecting again to confront them. I'm kind of trying to play the objective here, and I think that's my ultimate problem. Because you can see me boosting for the objective right now, trying frantically for it. It does reveal his ships, interestingly enough, so that works for me, despite the fact I don't have a Widowmaker. But I still got a decent position here. I still got a Dictator, and all his Manta Bombers are coming. I just have to turn this Overlord around and get it the hell out, ideally. And nonetheless, because I am not sure how to play this matchup, I am already considering this a loss. Coming into this match, I can tell you for a fact I'm already considering this match a loss, because I don't know what's the right choice, on top of the fact that I have to deal with Air Caste, which I have no experience with yet. So I'm pretty much ready to start warping the fleet out when necessary, which technically will be right now, because I just took a crap ton of damage from those secret missiles. Well, I don't really have fighters anymore because they just all got damaged, so I'm going to try and get a little bit of damage, but I'm just going to warp out momentarily. Just preserve the fleet. I don't want to lose any ships because I already won the first round. I did the mistake of reload, which cost me a lot there. And now I don't have the firepower to actually engage, because quite frankly, looking at this army with what I know now, I had a much superior fleet, because really what an extra 100 points would do for me is just 2 extra Widowmakers, quite frankly. That's any extra power at all, where he would get a sauce for the 700 point fleet. So This was actually a perfect opportunity for me to just beat him in a straight up fight, especially for the third match, and I squandered it horribly. I squandered it horribly because in the game that crashed, the cruiser clash, I feel like I was in the winning position there. I had him on the run at least with just his custodian at the very least. I have no idea how it would have played out the rest of the match, so I could have still lost with the burst potential, the raw damage the custodian could do. But it was looking promising. Hell, even if I did ignore the first objective, I could have just easily got that second one, which was dead in the middle of the map, so I made a huge mistake. I just straight up made a huge mistake with how I played that match. But I lost nothing on my end at the very least. I just could have gained so much from this battle. Even if I lost, that could have been my game to win right there. Because as I said before, I'm going to be upgrading the Tyrant for pretty much a second Overlord, and the remaining points is just going to be 2 Widowmakers for the final cruiser clash. How does that look any different to the fleet I'm using now, quite frankly? In all honesty, I don't know what I'm trying to say anymore. I think I already made my point. I feel bad about that match, but like I said, I tried to play the objective. There's like no experience because I very rarely even play Planetary Assault, even in my persistent mode games, because it's such heavily biased towards Cruiser Clash, it seems, so it's not like I could get a good idea of what to do. Nonetheless, I'm looking forward to this Cruiser Clash match here. Just a little bit. Hell, I even do... Yeah, I don't even think I go with the Retribution. I stick with the Try and True, although it is a tempting idea considering the fact I can get more aggressive now with him having 150 speed. He still has the recharge for his capacitors, his, combustion gauge, so he could still potentially outrun me, but he can't kite me for an eternity at least. And I have the range to keep pummeling him, at least with the lances. Macro batteries are going to be a little bit harder to hit with, because I have to turn my side to him, so they're only really going to be viable once he's stuck in the corner. So we already know what my fleet composition is, and one thing he's going to be doing here, which is going to be interesting, he's going to try and snipe down my Widowmakers with the railguns, the experimental railguns. So I think I may have annoyed him a little bit with these Widowmakers. I don't know if anyone else, if a Chardalon's been giving him trouble, but he seems really adamant about killing these Widowmakers, and thankfully I have 2 of them. So, unless he gets really damn good shots trying to hit them there, I should maybe be okay with the railguns. Hard to really say. I just know that's his sole focus there, so with that said, now that I'm looking at the replay, I almost wonder if I want to have the Widowmakers to the side, because if he shoots the railguns now, while they're in the position they are, he could easily hit my cruisers as well, and I don't want to give him that extra value. In retrospect, that's probably something I should have done. At least then, I'm not at risk, and I at least do that for one of my Widowmakers. I keep the second one in the middle, though. Try and spread them out, because at least then, I try and hide one somewhere safe, a little bit out of the way at least, as in one of his ships immediately explode again. He's not doing a good job keeping his frigates alive, I'm not gonna lie. It seems a little bit shameful, I think, because this has been happening a lot for his frigates. Just a sheer negligence. Nonetheless, this is where I continue to experiment with my decoy torpedo strategy, and of course, that is not going to do much. I need to give it at least 2, maybe 3 second delay before I fire the other 2 torpedoes, but if nothing else, fighting his fleet with Earth Cache when he has all 3 of his cruisers next to each other. His Saucer has stealth alloy, it's right next to the Custodian, for those of you wondering, so this is good practice for me, at least trying to get the execution down with the decoy torpedoes. I just kind of wish I had more torpedoes now to try and abuse it even more, assuming it works out well. Because I think that's why I won the first match that crashed, is because his Protector was already at half health by the time I got in visual range. It's the main thing that happened there. And those decoys are working relatively well. I just gotta get the execution down right, because I think that's too close, and somehow he shoots down the second wave before they even get close to the fighters, so I'm not sure what happened there. I figured they would have had a little more time before they got shot down. Unless he extended his point defense, only thing I could think of, he got really damn good rolls on the Custodian. Only other thing I could think of, because it surely didn't look like the fighters were responsible. But, Augur Disruption, easy kills here of the Warrens, and we still have plenty gas cloud to hide in, so we got a damn phenomenal position here for deterring his fighters without even using the assault run. Without using a assault run there, so that opens up the possibility for a brace for impact. But again, I don't know if I should be getting super aggressive now, because he has more upgrades available to him if he chose to take advantage of those upgrade slots, and he has the experimental railgun, which he did expend. So I'm wondering if playing a defensive style, like I have before, is the right idea or not, because that's what I'm trying to do. Just stay at range and just harass them with lances and hopefully some macro batteries. I'm not honestly sure just yet in this match, so I just stick with what I know for the time being, because it has actually been working relatively well against Air Caste. I want to say, at least, as I turn my focus to the Protector there, because I want to try and get rid of his support ships, as they kind of are a lot easier to shoot down, I want to say. Although that may prove to be a mistake, because after all, they do have high energy turn, so look how easy it would be for that Protector to get behind the Custodian. I feel like that's also another mistake there. I probably should go after the Custodian, but it has more health and more fighters and defenses. And thankfully, I have the brace for impact. I do have fighters that did help shoot down some of them. We survived the Custodian assault relatively well. We only took like maybe one Manta Bomber hit, so that's like an amazing result. Not to mention the fact he has those damn micro warp jump, and I only have the Dauntless, which I used its jammer already. So I can't deny his micro warp jump just yet. So unfortunately, nothing significant has been damaged just yet, so I turn my attention to the Solaire, especially since he doesn't even have the micro warp jump, but he does kill the one Widowmaker. But again, I still have a second one available, and with his slower speed, it may not even be necessary if I'm lucky. Especially since now everything has extended sensors, so I could be okay with him just focusing his attention trying to kill them while I damage his ships, because the Solaire goes down. It's going to go down in a moment from the stray Dauntless fire. And now we turn our attention to the Protector. My ships are getting a little bit separated, just a tiny bit, as I'm trying to calculate the sensor range a little bit. Well, yeah, I want to try and solid run with this thing. I think that's what I'm trying to do with this Dictator. Trying to, yeah, I burned retros specifically to try and get out of vision range, but of course, he's boosting a Custodian. That's not going to happen, so yeah, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. I have no jammers. My Dauntless is now out of position for the jammer. So this Dictator's in a lot of trouble, and I'm not going to have my fighters in time to deal with these Manta Bombs. So try as I might with the boosters gone, I'm forced to resort with a brace for impact here. And even with the brace for impact, he gets that kill immediately. It's a little bit unfortunate, because if the fighters were up, those will work out nice. And this is where things go wrong. I see the first mutiny, but I do not see the second one. I figured they both would have popped at the same time, so I didn't realize the second Overlord warped out, which could have been huge. I would have been a bit of an underdog a little bit, even if I killed the Protector, because the second Overlord's heavily damaged and about to die, but I should not have let that warped out. I was not even looking at it. I did not even notice it. I saw the first one that I canceled and assumed it was the only one, because I looked at my other ships at the same time, so it just mutinied right after I did my check on the fleet, if anything else was insubordinating, and then it fell apart, unfortunately, because that would have killed the Protector relatively well. I don't know if the Dauntless would have survived, and even then, I don't think I would have had the firepower to kill the Custodian. Not with it still at full health. It was looking damn promising, though, if I kept that Dictator alive. Even if it survived heavily damaged, I could have just made it strictly a fighter ship, just keep launching fighters for the Custodian once the Protector and the Solaire were down. Because his bombers could only come from one direction now, and the Dictator would have been in good shape for that, I want to argue. I'm sure as hell never going to get any bombers out of it, but the Custodian's fighters at least would not have been an issue. I feel like I scorned that a little bit. Mostly the Planetary Assault. I'm kicking myself for that.